Before we go into this 5 Reacts video with James Redmond, I want you guys to please make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe. Also, watch out for the shows that we've got coming out on this channel. We've got fantasy football. We've also got a new show with David Ornstein. And yes, we've got Highs and Lows, which comes out tomorrow. And the first one is featuring Johnny Bostock. Please make sure you keep watching. Enjoy.
One of the best coaches I've ever had. He said to me, John, you're the most talented player I've worked with. But in order for you to show your talent, you have to work the hardest. And that stuck with me ever since. You know, talent will get you to the door, but the hard work will get you through it. So.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Joel Bayer, and this is 5 Reacts. Now, Manchester United beat Liverpool 2-1 yesterday, and obviously we have a friend of the channel, my guy, Mr. James Redmond, who's joined us today, and he's here to let us know his thoughts. Don't cry, James. Just, you know, we want an honest opinion.
I was holding them back. Now that you've said don't cry, I'll make sure I don't cry, just for the show. Just for the show.
You know, we were saying off air, myself and Jake, we were saying that we believe that it was a good game for United to play because obviously they've been in such bad form and they were playing for pride, right? And I think Liverpool struggled, really struggled with, I don't know, the pace, the intensity. It's been like that all season. Can you explain what you saw in the game yesterday, please?
Well, to be honest, there was everything that I didn't expect. And that's actually credit to Manchester United, Joel, because when you see how they conducted their performance yesterday, listen, if I was a United fan, and thank God that I'm not, but if I was, I would be looking at that performance and thinking, that's really good. There was some positive signs, but it doesn't show to me that we're going to be significantly improving in the short term. But it's a step in the right direction. He took away Ronaldo. He took away Harry Maguire. And I thought there was a clause in Harry Maguire's contract that suggested he had to play week in, week out. This is how I know that there's an agenda against Liverpool, Joel. It's a disgrace. And because Lisandro Martinez, he was unbelievable in the game. The manager made the right decisions. They played the right football, and don't get me wrong, I agree with the notion that we just weren't at the paces, and if we were facing a team that was in form, if we were facing a team that was actually decent this season, and that's coming from a Liverpool fan right now where we're not decent, then I think we get beaten that game 4-1, 5-1. Elanga had a huge chance in the opening minutes, and I've always said I think he's a very much a bottom half of the Premier League player. I don't think he's going to be fighting Manchester United to Premier League titles and Champions League titles, and that's not to listen, even if he is a Premier League player throughout his career, that's amazing. But if you're serious, I think Rashford, when he was that age, I think he scores that chance. And then, you know, like even Rashford as well, unbelievable. So Manchester United done what they needed to do. But Joel, from a Liverpool point of view, you know, you said before, you mustn't be best pleased about that performance. That sounds like when a kid in school hasn't completed his homework, the teacher's not best pleased. This is well worse than that, because I like to talk. I'm not about calling players names, Joel. It's not my style. I don't prefer it, and I don't think it's right, because I wouldn't like people to do it to me. However, the one thing that I will say is I can criticise these players or praise these players, and whether I over-criticise or over-praise, it's a very easy mistake to make as football fans. But the one thing that I'll do as a supporter, as a teammate, or as the manager is suggest that was not good enough. You have set your own standards. You have had 3 seasons where you've reached 90-plus points every single season. You set those standards yourself. So as we go into a new Premier League season, off the back of, Joel, a Premier League season where we missed the league by 1 point and the Champions League by 1 goal, Liverpool fans have the expectation, okay, now we need to go that one step further. But the thing is, though, we started the season when we know, especially in today's game, you cannot afford to be dropping points. Robertson said it after his interview. So as the players readjust their performances, Joel, we as fans have to readjust our expectations. And if this form continues, let's say, throughout September, then we're probably going to have the conversation that the Arsenals and the Tottenhams were having last season. Now, again, only time will tell if we have to have those conversations. But not best pleased is a very big understatement, because I know the potential that these players can reach. And I even saw a stat, probably in around the 70th minute, Manchester United with 106 sprints to Liverpool 62. Even when on a bad day where our quality won't shine through, a Jurgen Klopp Liverpool team, even when he first joined in 15-16, would have at least ran the socks off. But we were intimidated. We were caught under the pressure with the fact that we've had loads of terrible games. We haven't found our rhythm. And that's basically what led to the result. So Manchester United done everything right and we done everything wrong.
Now, I like having you on, James, even though there's a section of the comments that are always negative towards you. I always remind people that,
I
listen,
love them, Joe. They're
listen,
still getting
we
revenue into
laugh
the
at
channel,
them, to
Joe.
be honest with you, but we say, look, it's important for us to have representation across the board. That's why Rio champions having you on. And I like you on because I get to hear a perspective from mostly Liverpool, because, you know, him and Steve always crying about United. I want to focus on Virgil van Dijk. Now, listen, for me, he's been the best centre half in the world for years. You know, like probably the last 4 or 5 years, he's probably been number one. You know, absolutely exceptional. He is very key to all the success you've had alongside the other key players, etc. Is it fair to say that we're seeing a demise in Virgil van Dijk? And I'm not just talking about yesterday's performances. I think if you look at Liverpool so far this season, 3 of the goals, probably around 3 goals, have come from his errors. Are we seeing a weaker Virgil van Dijk since he's come back from injury last season?
Oh, 100%. But, you know, people like to come up with the conversation. He's done it with Sadio Mane when he had a bad patch as well. Like, oh, he's finished. And, you know, people have said it about Cristiano Ronaldo numerous times, including myself. And then he'll score 18 goals in the Premier League and just prove that we're all YouTubers. But in this instance, you know, you were talking about a demise. You were talking about, is he past his best? Also, I haven't saw any physical attributes go down. I think he's still strong. I think he's still quick. I think he's also got really good IQ, Joel. And listen, you know, we're on a channel where Rio Ferdinand, in my opinion, the greatest centre-back in Premier League history. I know that I'm on the channel, but I didn't have to say that. That's like just genuinely my opinion.
No,
As much
you're a
as I
top
hate
guy.
to say it. But the sort of point is, to be the best centre-back, you've got to have that IQ. And I think Van Dijk has just got to a point where he was overthinking in certain situations. The second that Jadon Sancho turns James Milner, and by the way, I have loads of sympathy for James Milner. He's 37. He's just been outdone by Jadon Sancho, and nobody else was there to help him. And what does Van Dijk do? He stands there like the Statue of Liberty, waiting for the shot to be blocked. Like, listen, I get you 6'4", but you can't use your hands, and you can't be in a position where you're going to give him time to shoot. Now, when you're Jadon Sancho, Premier League footballer, played on the biggest stages in the Champions League with Dortmund, and let's be honest, there's a really good player that just hasn't found his rhythm. But even players like Jadon Sancho, maybe he doesn't fear Van Dijk, maybe he relishes the challenge. But Van Dijk is a concern. If you're on a football pitch against Virgil van Dijk, that's a concern. Van Dijk needs to emphasise that concern by pressing you down. And if he just simply takes a few steps more forward, automatically that's a much harder chance for Jadon Sancho to score. And he probably has to get to a point where he has to go past Virgil van Dijk and not just James Milner. And I was made up when James Milner got into him after the game. Some people were saying, oh, it looks like there's disconnect within the squad. No, at the end of the day, Joel, and you'll know this within business, there is always a superior to a superior. So in the hierarchy, you'll have someone who's your boss and they'll have a boss as well. And as much as Virgil van Dijk is a leader, and as you said, he's been the best centre-back in the world for years now, there is still people in this squad, like James Milner, who, yes, maybe he's never been the term world class, but he's done a lot in the Premier League. He's always shown great intelligence on the football pitch, and for Liverpool, he's achieved literally every single trophy. He has every right to pull Virgil van Dijk aside there and say, you've done this 3 times now. And I'm sure after the Mitrovic goal, they'd have pulled him in training. I'm sure after the Zaha goal, again, you know, when we played Crystal Palace, I am sure they would have pulled him. I'm a YouTuber. There's no thing to say that Virgil van... In the Champions League final, Joel, what did he do? He stepped off. He didn't put pressure on Valverde, and what happened? And then only against Manchester United, the same thing goes down. It's not good enough for someone who sets those standards for himself. And I would be saying that to him as a teammate or a manager. You've got to be playing so much better, and you've got to make more, not aggressive decisions, because, listen, we don't want to be giving away penalties, but put more pressure into the opposition. And once you start doing that, we'll see the Virgil van Dijk of old, in my opinion. But right now, he's been one of the worst performers in the squad.
Before the start of the season, I think there was a somber moment for a lot of fans across the Premier League when Sadio Mane left, because I think, banter aside, and you know, I know you because of you going viral with the Mane comments, and years later you were proved to be almost somewhat right, you know, of him being the best player in the world. Like, he was definitely up there, top 10 at the very least, you know. Just an amazing player. Yes, you have Darwin Nunez, who I think, you know, is a really good player. We've seen flashes of really, really good stuff. How much do you miss a Sadio Mane at the moment, especially on a game like yesterday night?
It's quite hard to describe that into words, to be honest. It's hard to miss someone when like you've fully accepted that they've gone. Yeah, I'm acting like he's dead here, but the sort of point is that Mane was a crucial part of Liverpool Football Club, but eventually you have got to have that change. And change is hard sometimes, but it's absolutely necessary. And this is why I mentioned about readjusting targets before. Sadio Mane is somebody who, by the way, shame on your face to the viewers who said he was finished, because I know it's probably about 75 to 80% of people watching, because I was getting it from United fans, Chelsea fans, Liverpool fans. They just completely disregarded everything Mane done before and said, now he's finished. Then he came back. He was the best player for the last half of the last season. And if he was like that for the whole season, he puts himself into a shout with the Ballon d'Or. Now he goes to Bayern Munich. He set off fireworks. It doesn't surprise me that we're worse without him. Darwin Nunez is not a better player than Sadio Mane. Harvey Elliott and Fabio Carvalho, yes, they have bags and bags and bags of potential, but they're not better than Sadio Mane. When you lose Sadio Mane, you lose someone who has the quality of a Mohamed Salah. You lose someone who has the stature and the presence of a Virgil Van Dijk. As good as Virgil Van Dijk is in his position, Mane isn't far off in his. I've argued for the past 5 years, for me, out of the best left wingers in the world, Mane and Neymar are the two people that really, really went for it, especially since Ronaldo moved more to a striker. So I think Mane definitely put himself in that conversation to be the best in the world at what he does. He proved that in the last 6 months at Liverpool, and no wonder we're missing him. But we are a considerably worse team without Sadio Mane, Joel. I'm not being funny or not. And the pressing, the link-up, and the ability to still run in behind. There's 2 out of 3 things there that Darwin Nunez lacks, and he doesn't possess in his all-round game and his skill set. Mane could do it all, and that's why we are going to miss him. But we need to move on, and I think that's why I talked about before, readjusting expectations. We're getting a new squad. We're bringing in Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, who I thought was the only 2 players who really had a sound game. And therefore, that's going to take time.
When you look at Jurgen Klopp, obviously now he's extending his time at Liverpool. Do you think he's going to have the time to get it right? Because let's be honest with you, City are flying, man. Like, I look at City, and yes, they drew against Newcastle, but in general, I just think it's going to be so hard for anyone to catch up to them. You know, I think you're looking at the Newcastle result, and it's fair to say that's probably going to be the worst that you see them play this season, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying there's no other bad performances, but
of course,
that's as bad as it really gets for them, you know. And it was a draw, you know, and it feels like a loss. When you've got the likes of Eric Haaland, who hasn't really kicked into gear fully yet, surely it suggests that the league is going to be too much for Liverpool this season.
Pep Guardiola's giving Jurgen Klopp wrinkles, lad. It's not a good sign at the moment. And I always say this, like, listen, when I say this statement that I'm about to say, I'm not putting an argument that Jurgen's better than anyone, or the argument simply of what I'm about to say is, think about the craziness of this. So we're in an age where scouting is a lot better than what it used to be, because we can literally find probably any profile of player that you would like. On top of that as well, you have the access of more money in comparison to the days of past. We've got the Premier League deal and stuff. So you've got more quality throughout the Premier League. People think the Premier League has got worse because it's less competitive. The reason why it's got worse is because there's 2 clubs that were exponentially better at doing the things that you need to do in football than everyone else. And that's why Liverpool and City went as far as they did. Jurgen Klopp has had 3 points tallies that was higher than Sir Alex Ferguson's highest ever points tally. Now remember, I'm not trying to say that means Jurgen is better. All I'm trying to, like, you've got to bear in mind, Sir Alex had to do more stuff. He had to go and speak to players himself. Jurgen, he's got the boards and stuff to do that for, and the scouts and whatnot. Jurgen's job is to maximise the players that he currently has, which I think he's more than done. We're in an age where we won 1 Premier League title, but you've got to look at the context. We were literally coming up against an entire country. And, it's crazy to think that we even got that close. 1 point off on 2 occasions, got 99 points as well. So I'm not trying to, be like, what a trophy. It's not a trophy. It's just we've maximised with what we've been given. And that's why now that we haven't came out with as many Premier Leagues as we probably wanted to, Liverpool fans have just got to realise that we are going to have to go into a sort of rebuilding process, and it's going to take time with the way we spend money. That's just a fact.
Again, I want to keep it in the Liverpool area in the topics, because you know it's a privilege having you, James. Even when you're upset and it makes us laugh, etc. But at the same time, you talk a lot of sense. You know your football. I want you to quickly go through your team and let us know where you think you can improve. Now, the reason why I say this, it's almost like a summary. Don't need to really go deep into Virgil van Dijk because we've already spoken about him. But I'm looking at players that I think we need to focus on, like the Gomez's and the Harvey Elliott's and I want you to give us a quick summary as much as you can through your team, where you need to improve and what you're happy with. Really important.
In a sentence, and to keep it brief, because I don't want to put people to sleep on this show, you know what I mean? You're coming in for top quality content. The issue is that last season we played the maximum amount of games of football, was 1 point off a Premier League and 1 goal away from a Champions League. Because we had the likes of Origi to be able to come off the bench, Minamino, who was able to play in the League Cup and the FA Cup. You had these options that could significantly improve your chances of, you know, when we go 2-1 yesterday in the game against Manchester United, best believe if you bring on Origi, the agency is higher. Minamino, the agency is higher because these are players who've got a point to prove. Now, I understand you can't keep these players for rotation always, but how we're in a season where we haven't bought an extra midfielder, and that's the main position I'm going to talk about. We let Matheus Nunez go to Wolves. On top of that, we've got 2 very injury-prone players in Naby Keita and Thiago. Oh, shocker, Naby Keita's injured from the start of the season, comes back yesterday, and now he's already injured again. I'm not playing the injury card because we need to prepare better. I understand if we hadn't been in this position previously. We got a few injuries, we didn't expect it. We know Jordan Henderson can get injuries. We know Thiago can. Oxlade, you'll know the score with Oxlade, Joel. He's never got away from them. Naby Keita, Harvey Elliott's too young. And listen, I think he can step up, but you can't be putting all your hopes on him. And this is what confuses me about FSG and Jurgen Klopp, Joel. I don't know if it's Jurgen Klopp going into FSG, knocking on their door and saying, listen, I'm aware we can't go out and get a Jude Bellingham right now because we want to get him for the best possible price, which I am very fine with. But why can't you go in and say we need someone to accommodate us right now? Because if we finish this transfer window and not get a midfielder, Joel, I am sorry, but I think we've seen Arsenal strengthen brilliantly to improve their squad depth. Spurs bringing in Richarlison for banter. Manchester City bringing in players for fun. Manchester United bringing in Casemiro when he hadn't even been linked with them all summer. These are ambitious moves from clubs. Chelsea getting Sterling. Listen, I understand all these things. And we got Darwin Nunez, but that weren't the only area that we needed to improve. And doing it piece by piece each season isn't what's going to be sustainable for Premier League titles year in, year out.
That's how we lost out. You know, in that period where we bought Ozil 1 year, then we got Sanchez, then we got Petr Cech. No, we needed a window when we needed it all done.
All of them.
Because in those years that you're not capitalizing, there's other positions that also fall away as well. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So yes, you might go out and strengthen your midfield this year, but then next year you're going to need to work on your defense. So next year you're going to need to, because Firmino's leaving, so you're going to need to re-strengthen there. So if you keep doing it piece at the time, you're right. Sometimes it's not the way. Man City just went out. Look, we need a replacement for Zinchenko. They've gone out. They've got him. We need, Fernandinho's gone out. I've got Phillips. They've gone out. They've got Haaland. They're not messing around.
But this is what I'm saying, though, Joel. Like, the manager's job of a modern game is to maximise the players that they are given. I think what Jurgen Klopp is in the position of is when he signs for Liverpool Football Club, he gets told the financial targets, and he also gets told about the successes that we want on the pitch with the players that they've got. Now, what people don't understand is people are like, oh, but James, it's not ambitious if we're only going for Champions League places. The lack of spending that FSG have been doing with the fact that we got to a Champions League final last year, why are they going to say, right, why are we going to pay 120 to 140 million on Jude Bellingham this summer to get us from a Champions League final when already we're getting there without him?
Yeah.
And on top of that as well, we're getting so close to the league. And what people fail to realise is you generate immense revenue by finishing in the Champions League. Jurgen Klopp has done that year in, year out from the first year that he achieved it. I'm not trying to say that's a success for me, but that is a success for FSG, and I think their spending model has proven that. When we lost the Champions League final against Real Madrid the first time round, we went out and spent loads, and other than that, we haven't had a summer like it. We haven't. And like you said, Joel, piece by piece, and by the time you do fix that piece, there's another problem that you've got to solve. Oh, eventually Virgil van Dijk's over 30 and Fabinho's finished or whatever it is, and then you need to accommodate them as well. That's why we need a summer like what we had after that Champions League season. That same following season, we got 97 points and won the Champions League through those improvements that we made. The evidence is in the book that success is there with this manager. But the situation is, Jurgen Klopp is there to maximise the players that he's got. He signed the contract, he's gone, yes, sir, and I will do the job that I need to do with the players that you have gave me. And that's all he needs to do. So I will not blame Jurgen, and I'll blame the players because I don't think they've been putting in the fight recently. But the number one thing that I'm going to blame is the fact that FSG aren't changing the squad up enough, and also making the budget more flexible for the squad to actually improve. Because last season we've shown what we can do with a big squad. It was the best squad that we've had since Jurgen Klopp came. And I understand we missed out on the 2 biggest trophies, but come on, Joel, it was a very impressive season. That's why I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, how come you haven't used the roadmap of when you've went out and invested, it's actually worked out for you? Yeah. That's because, Joel, we're happy with top 4. We've got the same owners as Manchester United when it comes to the ambition. We've got the same owners as a lot of these American companies and even larger than that. And we're seeing it now because we're just happy with being in those places.
James, thank you very much for your time coming on and speaking to us. For those of you guys who like it, those of you guys who don't like it, James is a part of the 5 team, and you will be seeing him throughout the whole course of the season, giving us reactions, coming down to the studio with us, doing debate shows, getting him involved in all types of stuff. Good friend of the channel, and like I said, myself, Rio, we're really, really happy to have you on board, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon, bro. Speak to you soon. Peace.